Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. In this webinar, we're going to cover the feature highlights of 2024 and our roadmap for next year, 2025. So first things first, as usual, I want to make sure that everyone can hear me and Telmo and see us as well. You have a chat at your disposal. You can post your questions there. If there is anything as well on the audio side, please let us know. And the webinar is recorded as usual, so you can find the recording afterwards on our website or our YouTube channel. So today, as I said, we're going to cover these two topics, the feature highlights of 2024 and the roadmap for 2025. And the presenters today are myself, Anna Walter, Product Manager at ClicData, and CEO Telmo Silva. I'm going to jump in right away into the feature highlights of 2024. We have a packed agenda today. We have a lot of things to want to show and present. So that's why I'm going right away into the topics. We'll start on the data side with the features that you see on the screen. I'm going to start first on data flows. So on data flows this year, we have developed a lot of new features. As you know, data flow is our data management tool. And you can do all sorts of things in this, like to manage the data and process data. So this year we have launched a few new nodes and a new series of nodes which are AI powered. So we have nodes that help you to ask questions, any questions through the AI, but about your data, about other stuff as well. We have a sentiment analysis node, a summarize node, a translation node, and a language detection node. We have presented all these nodes in action in a previous webinar. So please, if you are interested, go to our website or our YouTube channel to see the webinar and to see these nodes in action. It's very interesting how they work. And we also have another processing node that has been released this year, which is the geolocation node, which allows to convert any IP to a geolocation, which is useful if you are working with maps. And then we have two new cleaning nodes that were asked a lot by customers. One to convert the type of a column, and the other one is to find and replace. It's a find and replace feature with a lot of options, very handy to use. And then we also have worked on the general UI of data flow. So we have launched a double preview of nodes. So you can actually compare two nodes side by side. That's what you can see on the screenshot there at the bottom of the screenshot. And we also have launched annotations and labels. That's something that you can see on that screenshot as well. That purple box is actually there to group nodes together and help understand what each group of nodes does. That helps for collaboration, obviously, and for documenting your work. We also have launched statistics on certain nodes. That's also something that you can see in the data flow webinar that I mentioned before, and also how to run simulations. So very soon, there are new features which are coming. When I say very soon, it's like the next release. So we have checkpoints coming in. Checkpoints will enable you to work while you're working in the editor to actually process data up to a certain point and then use that processed data already when you work on subsequent nodes. That will actually help you speed up your work, because each time you will preview a subsequent node after that checkpoint, it will actually just go back to that data that has already been processed before. So that's helpful for quicker editing and a smoother workflow. And then also a branch execution feature that will allow you to run only a certain branch in your flow. That's also a feature that will help you while working in your data flow. So for example, if you are working on a very complex flow with a lot of table outputs, you will maybe just output one branch, and that's what you will be able to do with that option. And also, we are looking into providing more advanced statistic nodes, such as forecast, for example, which is coming out very soon. And Telmo is going to talk about a few more features as well in his presentation. So this year we have also launched a new module, which is called Data Scripts, which is one of the big new features this year, which enable you to execute Python using ClicData tables. So you have that editor, which you can see on the screen here, which allows you to have input and output tables from ClicData. And in the middle, you have any code you want to write here to execute things like, for example, you can do advanced data modeling, you can do machine learning, you can create your own connector, you can do anything you want with that Python code. And sorry again. We have a webinar coming up very soon, before the end of the year, about data scripts, where we will present the whole feature, and which you can join if you want. We have the QR code here if you want to register, and otherwise you can register via our website as well. Another module that we launched this year was Data Hooks. So Data Hooks is a model that allows you to listen to webhooks that come from other sources than ClicData, and to then trigger actions. Basically, the very common action would be to add a row of data into a table with the information, with the macros, the values for it that came from that webhook. So it's another way to integrate data into ClicData. And then, of course, you have other options as well. You can delete rows in a table, refresh a table, execute a data flow, and other actions which are soon coming as well, like launching a schedule, for example. If you get data from a third-party app, then you might want to launch a schedule after that to do other actions, and also trigger an alert. We have also launched 7 new connectors, 2 database connectors, which are Azure Data Lake and MongoDB Atlas. And as well on the marketing side, we have been active on new connectors. We have a new TikTok ads connector, Zoho CRM, and Klaviyo for your email marketing campaigns. And on the e-commerce side, you can now connect to your PrestaShop. And on the cloud storage side, we have a Dataverse connector. So these are 7 new sources, and we have 3 more coming up before the end of the year as well. On the marketing side, we have Viva CRM Suite, and we will have next year another one on Viva, from Viva as well. On the accounting side, finance side, you can soon connect to Penny Lane, and also on to Databricks to get your data into ClicData. On the Explorer, we have different options that have been developed this year, and which will help you analyze your work and work with your data in a better way. So the first one is this table analysis tool. So you can actually access it from any table, from the Explorer, where you have all your tables, your data tables listed. You can access it directly from there. And it will actually show you, like you can see on the screen here, for any column, you can get field by field analysis. You can see the range, the modes, how many nulls you have, if you have unique values, the max, the means, etc. Very handy when you actually start working with a fresh data table. And another tool that we have launched this year is the dependency graph. Again, you can get that on any Explorer. This is not only for tables, it's also for dashboards and reports and any other object in the platform. This will allow you to actually see the dependence between each object in the platform. So for example, if you have a data table, which is used in a dashboard, but then also in a report and in a schedule and maybe in an alert, you will see all these dependencies in that graph. And from the graph, you can also navigate through the different objects. So if you click the graph, you will see the dependencies of that object, and also you can access it directly, etc. So it's a very handy tool which we use a lot internally. So I hope you like it. You like it too. All right. So on the analytics side, let's have a dive into dashboards first. So dashboards, we have been working on dashboards this year to make some widgets better and also to add some features. We always used to have the rebinding of dashboards at the dashboard level so that you could actually switch all your widgets from one data set to another. And we have developed that new feature this year to only do that at the widget level. So now you can actually, on any widget, rebind it to another data set. So that's very useful, for example, if you want to change the data table only for that widget and not for all the other ones. And for example, that's useful also if you want to replicate a widget design from one widget to another. You can just copy a widget and then rebind the second widget to another source. And then we have enhanced a lot of other widgets. So I've just put here a highlight. So we have a new slicer mode on the filter panel. So that means that it works like a slicer in Excel. We also have a horizontal layout now for the date range picker. Sorry, that was a largely asked for feature. On the scorecard, we have conditional formatting, which is really, really interesting to work with. It gives a real added value to the scorecard table widget. I really think that you should try it if you haven't done that yet. And then we also have enhancements on the region map, on charts, and on tables. Basically, these are all display optimizations and some feature optimization as well. Like for the region map, for example, you can have a second layer on top of your region map with points that actually correspond to the map as well. On the report side, we have developed new features. So you can now use tables inside of the reports at any level, at any section level of the reports. And we also have now the ability to use team and user parameters and hyperlinks in all the objects of the report. And you can also have runtime filters, meaning that whenever you run a report, you can actually have a filter that is run at the same time of the execution. We have a webinar on the reports. We have done a webinar on the report as well. So same thing as before, you can see that on our website. And very soon we will have as well live links for reports and charts. That's also coming forward by the end of the year. On the binder side, we have now the ability to customize the display of the binder much more than before. So before you only had the option to have the tabs at the top of the binder, and now you can put it on the side. On any side, by the way, on the left, on the right, or at the bottom. So that really gives you much more styling options for your binders. And then the Insights module has been completely revamped. So that's as fresh as 2 days ago with our last product release. We have now a drag and drop system on Insights, which is very powerful and easy to use. And you can do a lot of things that you couldn't do before. I hope that that helps you actually use that module in different ways. You can join tables directly in the Insights, for example, and you can have different types of charts. You can group dates. You can have a simple table or pivot table. You can ask AI to build the Insights for you, and we have many, many other options. We will probably do a webinar in the next months on Insights to show you all the features. But in the meantime, you can, of course, go to our Help Center and read the documentation and see all the good things that are there. All right. And then on the last part, on the other areas, I wanted to highlight the login page optimizations that we have now. That's also from the last release 2 days ago. So you now have a lot of other styling options that you had before. So these are just a few examples of login pages that you could build for your account. And we also introduced mixed authentication 2 days ago. So that means that you can now have multiple authentication methods for all your users in your account. Some users could, for example, log in using a password and an email, and others could log in using their Microsoft ID or be logged in directly via a single sign-on system. And on the automation side, we also have launched a few more things this year. We have now the ability to send SMS through schedules, but also through alerts. So that's also a very handy feature. You can also integrate formulas in your SMS. So that means that you can actually have them dynamic links, for example, to your dashboards and send them by SMS. And you can also have multiple attachments on emails now. So before you could only send one dashboard or one binder or one report, and now you can actually have one email with all these attachments in one place. And then on the UI improvements, we have been working as well this year on making the whole platform smoother. So you have now the ability on any pop-up to resize it. So as on any other app, you can just drag the corner of the pop-up to make it bigger or larger or whatever you need. You also have the ability to collapse the left panel and the panel content, so make it really small and have the whole space of your screen for to work actually and to see your module you're working on. And also, we are now remembering these settings, right? If you collapse a panel and then you go somewhere else on the platform and you come back, the panel stays collapsed. And you can also use keyboard navigation now. Overall, we have been working towards a better space usage on the app, and we really hope that you enjoy it. And we also added very recently, like 2 days ago again, folders for connections. That's something that wasn't there before. So now we align with all the other explorers in the platform. And this is obviously interesting for better security management, and you can better organize your connections now through the folders. It works like all the other folders in the other systems, right? You have your personal folder and your team folders. Works exactly the same way. All right, so I'm at the end of my presentation here, the highlights of 2024. If you want more of these product informations, you can subscribe to our product updates in your personal settings. So that's the little toggle at the very end of your personal settings in the notification panel. And we also have a lot of short videos, which are between 1 minute and 5 minutes, which are visible on our YouTube channel or on our website. Which are showing the features of ClicData, the big modules, how you can use it with examples and use cases, and also some very short formats where you can really see how you work with one feature. That's what we call the Learning ClicData series. And yeah, and finally, I wanted to say that if you have any feedback or ideas that you want to share about the platform and things that you want to see in that you would like to see improved in the platform, you can send me an email to product@clicdata.com, and I would be very happy to hear from you. Right, and now I'm giving the mic over to you, Telmo.
All right, thanks, Anna. Amazing work. Thank you very much for putting that together. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. I'm gonna see if I can get this started. So I'd like to introduce the roadmap for 2025. As always, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of different things and priorities that come along the way. So this is how it's set right now. Obviously, it's always there's always the opportunity to reshape it as we go along, depending on other factors. And again, as a reminder, of the overall vision of what we're trying to achieve. In this kind of scratch, I'm basically outlining some of the things that we would like to achieve by 2025, but also many of the components that we already have in the platform, from the intelligent connectors and the growing catalog of connectors that we have, all the way down to the different ways that you can consume the data visually or non-visually as well. Either by data streams or APIs, and all the things around it, such as the data hooks and the data streams and Python and so forth. So again, this is kind of our plan, our vision to grow this platform, to have all the necessary tools for you to achieve whatever you need to achieve. Now, I've grouped some of these into 4 different sections. Much like what Anna did with the addition of data storage and automation, data management, data storage and automation, data analytics and visualization, and all the rest, basically. So starting with data management, what we have planned for 2025 is Viva Vault, which is slightly different than Viva CRM. Viva used to be based on Salesforce, and now they split off. So they're building their own thing. And this Viva is basically, Viva Vault is kind of their product line for pharmaceutical, healthcare, life sciences industry. The TikTok shop, we released TikTok ads, but this is the TikTok shop connector is coming online. The Amazon Vendor Central, not to be confused with the Amazon Seller Central, which we already have a connector for. This is for the vendor part. And now we're going to go way back to back in my days of EDI, which is, I think it stands for electronic data interchange or something like that. I don't even remember what it stands for anymore. I do remember having to sift through those standards of EDIs, invoices, purchase orders, and so forth. So we're going to build an entire processor for that. And while we're at it, with that, we would also build a connector for unstructured text files. Now, this is very handy, and we'll show you a couple of areas where we're going to plug this into, not only for things such as just text files and documents, but also for emails, where we can try to extract information either in a fixed position or using other technology. And of course, PDF will come along the same way, because it will be exactly the same kind of concept. PDF has both the content in a vectorial representation, so very easy to say at this point, grab the invoice number or what have you. But it also can come in a scan mode. And so we're going to plug in OCR into it with GPT to try to identify items on the PDF. And of course, if we can do that with a scanned PDF, we can also do that with all types of different images. So that's going to be, it's going to be our scraping modules, if you will, of unstructured data coming online next year. On the data flows, now we've advanced a lot on the data flows. We have built a lot of nodes, but we have a few more to do still. Conditional branching is one. So again, you could have on one data flow 2 ways or 2 paths or multiple paths. So you can do test data and then do the real data. This is great for machine learning, where you can do one path where you're doing basically your sampling, and then you're doing and building your models and testing your modules, and then doing the real run. Or maybe you're in a dev prod kind of situation. Whatever the reasons you want to do conditional branching, this would be good for you. Checkpoints, which Anna already alluded to, which are going to be very handy. Variables, the ability to define variables for the data flow to utilize at different nodes and change them as you go along. And of course, runtime parameters, much like a report or something that you pass parameters, or a dashboard, you would be able to pass parameters at runtime of the data flow. So this would be handy for your scheduling. If your schedule launches a data flow at month end, maybe you will do something, or you will populate some formulas differently than if it was running on a different day. And I already talked about one of the ML nodes that we're going to add in terms of advanced statistics, in addition to the OpenAI ones that we have. So obviously, classification, prediction, and regression. But we're going to put a little spin on it, where we actually going to try to have 1 or 2 models behind it, or sorry, more than 2 modules behind it, so that we can actually give you a sense of which model would work better for the data that you've fed it. So this is taking a little bit of time, and we're still trying to understand the computing power necessary to run some of these things on a data flow and on a .NET Azure infrastructure, or whether we need to start a new infrastructure for this. And finally, something as simple as executing other data flows. So the ability to just at the end or somewhere to execute a data flow, do it, and then coming back and resuming its normal path. Very handy to kind of modularize your data flows. On the data hooks, well, data hooks is actually becoming one of our more interesting nodes. A lot of people start hooking that up as opposed to trying to fit the data into our API. Data hooks already provide some sort of a unstructured data approach, but because we expect data to be in JSON on a data hook, it's obviously not really unstructured parsing. It's in fact quite structured. But the idea is that we are going to expand that. And obviously one of the ideas, now that we built that other connector, which is the unstructured data, why can't data hooks use that same logic to also, for example, receive an email and then grab data from that email and put it into the database? Now, along with that, there's a new concept, which is today we can receive email at dataload@clicdata.com. We do not allow for custom email addresses. It's all parameterized, starting from the subject line or the body of the email. we are going to allow for custom email addresses, white labeled. So you can have an email, for example, invoices@coca-cola.com, and that will be hooked up to a data hook that will do a specific task. And that's kind of the other part and final part of data hooks to finalize this model. Is today we can only really do a database and maybe launch one or two things. We want to do a whole lot of other actions with this. And we're going to be talking about this in just a bit, what we're going to call the task flow, but the ability to launch, not only to put data, but also to do other things with this data hooks is going to actually enhance this module. Now, here's the big discussion is always about views, merges, and fusions, which was, for those of you that do not know, is how we used to do our data flow would be using views, merges, and fusions. Views would be a series of calculations and filters and things like that. Merges is where you would do a join between tables, and fusion is, well, where you would fusion multiple tables. We are removing these objects. We're deprecating them in lieu of data flow, of course, but we're going to put something back called dynamic views. Now, what are the differences between dynamic views and the old views? Well, the first thing is, let me start with the negatives. We are now going to be able to cache views. Views will always become a virtualized view of the data. And you will not be able to build views upon views. So to avoid dependencies and chain reactions of basically things that are just absolutely slow, which is the entire issue we try to avoid with data flow, and it's actually working out very nicely. If you want to persist the data flow is the tool for you. This is great for those quick filters, sums, calculations, maybe just selecting some columns or hiding some columns to create partial views of your data to make, that you can reuse them throughout the platform a lot faster, a lot easier. But attached to that, we're also going to build it in such a way that is dynamic based on the user that pulled up that view. So this allows you now to just have a view there that is parameterized for each user or groups of users that calls up upon that view at the data level, which is great, right? Because I think you can start seeing some of the features you can use this with. You can calculate data streams and send data streams of that view, and the data streams will be sent based on the user that is receiving those data streams. You don't need to execute the data flow for simple operations anymore or create a data flow. You just create a simple view that is instant and accessible immediately. There's no processing, and you'll be able to use this data view in downstream processes, including data flows, dashboards, alerts, etc. Right? We're still finalizing a lot of these functionalities, but you will expect not to have all the same functionalities that you have today in View. For example, costly operations, very time-consuming and processing, such as unpivot. Pivot will not be in there. A stripping of or splitting of texts, kind of parsing of JSONs will not be there. So those will be out, but definitely the basic functions, calculations and things like that will be there. Filters, groupings, and so forth. The other good news as well is that it's slow storage because views are not materialized. These are just virtual. We just basically have 25 megabytes of storage because we do have some storage that is used on the views. There's some indexes and stuff. But because it's hard to calculate, we just flatlined everything at 25. Some frequently asked questions of some of our key customers that are aware of this and that have asked this in the past, as well as some of the internal questions being asked amongst the team, is, are we going to plan compatibilities between the current view and the next view? Not really. There's no specific thing as compatibility because we're not going to offer all the features. Like I said, no caching, but you can snapshot. And when are you going to deprecate views, merges, and fusions? Well, we're not. They're kind of been deprecating, meaning we're not developing new features, new nodes, new functionality for it. but just fixing critical issues. And we'll continue this for a couple more years as soon as we see people really taking on to data flow, which we're hoping 2025 will be the year. We will be working to assist that transition. We'll be working on an automated conversion from the system we have today into data flow, however, not to dynamic views, but into data flow. So this will help with more simple kind of dependencies between views, merges, and fusions. How much, it's still under study by the team. And finally, data management, data streams. So with data streams, we're able to put data in a variety of storage solutions, databases, and file systems. We are now going to start tackling how can we put data back into applications such as HubSpot and Salesforce. So you could actually use ClicData as kind of a cleansing tool that receives a hook from HubSpot, for example, does something with the data, and then puts it back into HubSpot in a way that it's cleaner or however you want it. Our data editor is going to get some new framework love and become much more friendly and align with the data types that we have today, because it's still our old data, custom data, as it's called. The good news about this data editor is not only going to be faster because we're going to do partial loading, but also partial updating. So if you change data, it will just send the data back that you've changed. And that will allow us to actually edit any data if you allow to on your tables. So you could actually have a huge amount of tables, data in one table. You can filter and then basically find the record that's bugging your dashboard or a null that should not be there, and you fixed it, but you kind of don't want to reload the data. You can go directly to the editor and fix it directly in ClicData. And by the way, it is logged as well. And we'll talk about logging and transactions in just a second. Finally, the data loader is going to be revamped. Today, we have two different data loaders, one for Unix and the Mac, and another one for Windows. And in Windows, we offer two flavors, actually four if you think about it, 32, 64-bit, and as well as a Windows service and as a standalone executable. We're going to put all that into one using basically C#, .NET Core, whatever it is right now, .NET 10 Core, which is compatible with both Unix and Windows. We're going to harmonize our code base and put a much better product out there. Not only that, but we're also going to add the ability to have JDBC as a connector for the data loader, as well as local Excel files, which today you could do using ODBC, but this would be a native way of doing it. So that's the data management piece. And now moving to the data storage and automation piece. The first thing is the data warehouse. So one of the things that we're working on, that we have been working on and will continue to work into 2025, is the way we do loading. Specifically, the way we do loading for Delta loads. So updates, appends, and updates appends. Today, we use the same methodology as if it was a full reload. We keep the whole table as a backup in case you need it. We're going to implement our own transactional-based logging. And one would ask, why would you do that? Why can't you do that with SQL Server or other technology? Yes, we could, but then the information is now outside of our application, and we will not know how to actually handle it. So we have to kind of keep tabs on it. And the second reason is because, and that will come just after the slide, is because we want to offer the same kind of capability with other databases that may not follow the same or have the same capabilities as, for example, Azure DB. Synapse is one of them. Synapse is made not for transactional purposes, more for analytical purposes. So we would like this to be compatible with those type of databases. The good news about this is that we are now predicting, if you do updates and appends, that your data loading will be at least 10 times faster than what it is today, up to even 50 times, depending on how much data you delta in every day or every minute or every week. Definitely your storage will be less because we only now store what needs to be rolled back or logged. And we will reinstate 50 versions minimum for each table, and we may increase that if we have a good first few months of success in terms of monitoring the storage and so forth. As I just mentioned, we are still working on implementing Postgre as an alternative to SQL Server or SQL Azure. It does perform quite well. It is a lower cost, and it has just as many features in terms of high availability and backup from Azure. So we're looking very seriously into that and moving into that. And related to that as well, we're looking at Amazon RDS. Once we have Postgre, we'd be looking at providing an option to store your user data, if you want to, on Amazon RDS as well. So our sign-up screen currently just offers where do you want to store your data, Europe or the US. We will have more options there, not only in terms of Azure and Amazon, but also in regions. The file storage. Today, file storage is called media and documents, or documents and media. This was a starting point for us to migrate all your dashboard assets, images, PDFs that you've attached to dashboards and things like that, to these new storage centralized secured system. Now we're going to open up that and we're going to rename it to file storage. And it is already using Azure Blob Data Lake. So basically, we're just going to allow for more file types to be uploaded, bigger files. And along with that, we're planning on a higher storage plan just for the file storage to be hooked up to the subscription. So you'll still have a certain amount of data on your data warehouse, but on your data lake, you will have most likely a much higher plan of storage. You'll be able to load, as usual, non-unstructured data, binary data, large Parquet files, CSVs, and so forth. And of course, that enables us to create a new connector, which I did not list on the first one, but this is our own internal connector where you can actually load data from the data lake directly into your data warehouse. So this will be a new connector that you can pick the files, much like our FTPs or S3s or Dropbox, etc. connector. As mentioned before, because we built that other connector that can, parse through PDFs, scan PDFs, as well as OCR through binary images or bitmaps of PDFs, we are now going to provide this capability as well using this connector to try to parse data into a single row. And finally, we're going to launch a new Windows and OS X, not Linux app. This one will be reserved just for those two operating systems, where from the File Explorer, you can just do a send to your data warehouse or send to your file storage. You could also create a synchronize between a file you have locally on your computer and our platform, and it will basically synchronize each time it has changed. So this is going to integrate into your Finder Explorer or into your Windows Explorer. Finally, this is the module that I was talking to you about. And to explain what this module does or what it will do, today we have the schedules, and the schedules are usually triggered by a clock, a calendar that you've configured, but they can also be triggered by a user manually, a dashboard button, or a webhook as well, a data hook. These are the API. In fact, our API can trigger a schedule. And then the schedule as tasks, a lot of these tasks. What we are currently examining and proposing is that we separate the two and leave schedules doing, well, what the name says. It's a schedule. It's supposed to do something at a certain time. And the schedule can call a task flow. And it's in the task flow that we put in all the logic of tasks. And why do we want to do this? Because we feel that these task flows are no longer linear like they used to be in schedules. We're having a lot of customers coming to us and saying, well, can I do a certain tasks if something is a certain way, but if I have a different type of data, I want to do a different set of tasks. So remember how we're adding that on data flow to manage data paths. Here we're talking about tasks. Maybe I want to send an email once something happens, but not send an email once something else happens. Maybe I want to send an alert. And so this is becoming quite a convoluted kind of thing. We can start thinking about this as the equivalent to potentially Power Apps on Microsoft, or actually, I can't think of other tools right now, but hopefully you understand. And if not, please do ask questions. I'm not seeing the chat screen. So Anna, if there's any questions on this stuff, do not hesitate to interrupt me, because I do not see that screen at all. All right, so that finishes kind of the data side of things. And now we're talking about data analytics and visualization. Dashboards is the first one, right? We've been really working hard on this V2 version, which you will not see for a while now. I'll give you a little bit more idea on the timeline. But I want to tell you some of the things that have been going into design, and some of them have been made into development already. So the first thing is that the new design will be in-place preview. So we'll not have pop-ups anymore like we have today. We'll have 3 different types of layout: absolute, grid, and infinite. Absolute is similar to what we have today in our current dashboard. Is each widget, each visualization item is relative to the top left corner of the page. It's very absolutely positioned there. And we only are able to zoom in and zoom out. The exception to that is obviously the mobile view mode. But in essence, that is our mode right now, absolute. We want to go to a grid system, which kind of, as you drag new things, the space makes, or the designer makes space for your widget to fit in beside it or below it or above it. And then we want to go back to a very old version or a very old vision that we had of ClicData back in even before we launched, which was an infinite space. It won't be infinite, most likely, but imagine kind of like a workspace where you can just put widgets everywhere, make lines and make correlations. Think of it kind of as a drawing board. It's probably not going to be our first priority on that one, but definitely we're going to have space for it. Alignment and snap grid helpers, which you will see already come out on some of our designers. Dashboard data source with joins. So this is similar to what we're doing on Insights, where you can actually do joins on the spot within the dashboard. But you can also set a single data source with joins at the dashboard level, kind of like the cube approach of or OLAP approach of Power BI and a few other tools. You'll be able to have the best of both in those cases. Local limited data sources. That means that the dashboard will store some data inside of it so that the first render is much faster. And as soon as we notice that is unsync, we're going to get the new data and refresh the dashboard. And containers, which are basically sub objects inside the dashboard. So like a tab container. The difference is that, and one of the reasons why we're doing V2 is that they will be rendered on demand when you switch, not while you're loading the full dashboard. So that allows you to actually have a very complex dashboard, yet it will load very fast on the first one because we're not loading the back or invisible widgets. Speaking of the widgets, we're going to also split widgets into a reusable widget catalog. So you'll have an explorer similar to what you have for dashboards, but to manage your widgets. So you can create widgets. Widgets can be global, meaning you create a version of the widget tied to a data. And if you change that, it will change all the dashboards where that widget is being used. Or you can just use it as a template, a copy once, and then you just modify it accordingly, however you want to see, breaking the link between that and its global parameters. The main design of the new widgets is animation and quality of display as the first design priority. So we're working very hard to make sure that we incorporate those things that we always wanted to make those dashboards look, more pleasant to the eye, better color combinations, etc. We're going to introduce direct-to-source data binding. Direct-to-source means that you do not have to go through the data warehouse, our ClicData's data warehouse, to display data on your widgets. You can actually go to the source of a connection. So if you think about it, let's say you have a connection which you load data, typically, let's say MySQL or SQL Server, something like that, and you're loading data, etc. On one dashboard, on this one widget, you wanted to make it real time, real time, meaning you want to go back to your source database. You plug that widget to the connection, you type your query directly into the widget, and when the dashboard loads, we actually going to use the connection credentials, go to your database, execute the query you typed, and map the data back to the widget. So you do not have to use our dashboards or our data warehouse as the interim data source if you do not want to. And of course, with this widget being split off, you can actually create widgets live links, right? As opposed to creating one dashboard with one widget in there and then sharing the dashboard widget. Frequently asked questions again. There is no compatibility planned between the current dashboards. We're adding too many features and too many different ways of doing sometimes the same things, but we are not going to be able to convert them. So this is going to be a slow transition. If you see things in the new V2 that you like, it would probably be great to convert them little by little. However, the current dashboards will be here for a long time. So, we have time for that. We're hoping to have a first release in 2025 and a full release in 2026 of this V2 version. On the reports side, the reports is almost a fairly robust done module. There's a couple things we need to finish in 2025. Embedding of charts is already ongoing. So that will be the last main feature. We're now looking at ways to render the PDF faster by throwing more resources and also trying to figure out how we can scale that piece. Live links onto the reports, and show the reports through our mobile app. That's actually a mobile app development, but basically allow reports to be seen. And I don't know how much time we have. Well, we still have 10 minutes, so I still have a few things. Insights, as Anna mentioned, there's been a lot of improvements. Hopefully we'll get to hear some feedback. Until then, we already start discussing designs for a multiple pane comparison, meaning that I want to run two different insights and see them side by each so that I can see what's going on in using the same data sources, but with slightly different pivoting or grouping or filtering. More visualizations. Right now, I believe we have 4 plus the pivot table. That's 5. We want to add more charts. The ability to say, oh, this is a great insight. Okay, now I have to go to the dashboard and create a widget. We want to have a little button that goes, okay, now convert this to a widget, and you'll create a widget in that global catalog that we discussed. And collaboration. It would be nice to have 2 or more people working on the insights, either by sharing or pointing or what have you, to kind of come up to ideas. The last one is probably more for 2026, depending on the feedback we get from insights and the usage. Data scripts. While data scripts has been running quite nicely for a first release, it's a huge thing that we've launched in terms of the infrastructure behind it, the code. It was one of our longest building modules. It took a long time to develop it. We're now monitoring the different CPUs and the different usage of it. Our goal is to, right now we're limited to 8 cores, which is fine for many Python tasks, but not fine for some of our key customers that are talking about billions of rows of table. So now we're looking into how can we scale this? How can we add more to the infrastructure or start an infrastructure that's more capable? It's called data scripts and not Python scripts because we always had in mind that we would support R, and why not potentially another language if another one comes along that serves a similar purpose. So we're looking at R compatibility. And finally, execute scripts from Dataflow, the editor, make it more IntelliSense capable and so forth, a few other features. As I mentioned before, the improvements to startup times so that cost is reduced, and graphical output. Today, our data script can only output basic text on your console. or do whatever you've asked it to do with the data. So some people said, why can't we have some plotting libraries and things, just to visualize some of the stuff we're doing right within DataScript. So we're going to look at that as well, if possible, if we can add that in. Finally, the very long-awaited LiveDocs module that I've been trying to get out the door for a long time. And again, just a quick explanation for those that don't know. We've been asked to export dashboards and things like that using different templates. And we were not really keen on building a template manager for PowerPoint, because then we would also be asked to do one for Word and other things. So what we're looking at is actually the reverse, which is to say, you build your template using the standard data that Microsoft usually puts in there, or PowerPoint usually puts in there. You get the style right, you get everything right, and then you just macro things in. So on the chart, on the pie chart, you will mark it up saying, okay, this data comes from this data set, and you can add filters and things like that. And these images will be replaced with these images from file storage, or a dashboard snapshot, and even just titles and things like that. You'll be able to run macros. You upload this template to your file storage, and you set up a publishing task to say every month, publish this to these users. And we open the presentation, we replace the data based on your parameters, whether it's per user or whether it's global changes, and we publish that out via email as an attachment. Simple, yet it seems to have been a very difficult module for us to develop so far. Other modules and functionality, data forms. Data forms is kind of the second version of our widget, data form widget, which a lot of people liked, and the ability to enter data directly onto your dashboard. Well, anything more than what we provided on that widget, people would have to go to Google Forms or Typeforms or all these other tools out there, and then kind of API the data in and all that stuff. So what we're going to start developing is realistically our own form module, which allows not only to do form-based data entry, but also grid-like or tabular-like data entry that can insert or update data in multiple rows at a time. This would have its own kind of screen designer. Some of the rules kind of that we put in place, free-form design of fields and label placement, validation of data, which is critical on the server and client, so that you can actually build things that depend on each other and saying, well, if you picked a region at the top, then the countries on the drop-down list below must already be filtered and things like that, these rules. Full styling capabilities, so you'd pick the colors, the format, everything else. No white ClicData branding for no white label, for if you have white label, sorry. Live link enabled, and ability to push these out and say, please fill this out at a certain frequency. So you can actually ask information from the field or from different people at different time to bring it in. Add-ons. Well, hopefully you know that we have an Excel add-on, and it's pretty cool, right? Because you can, if you're still an Excel kind of lover like I am, I mean, I still really like Excels. I have a couple of Excels on my desktop that, basically I could just click, open the Excel, click a button, refresh, and it goes to ClicData, grabs the data, and fills out all my sheets automatically, and all my calculations on my worksheets work fine. It's that simple. Once you set it up, the table just feeds in, and that's it. It's a great add-on. It works flawlessly. I definitely urge you to try it out if you're still in Excel mode. Well, guess what? We're going to do Power BI as well. I'm personally tired of kind of fighting the battle that we're just like Power BI. At this point in time, hopefully some of you have understood that actually visualization is one very small piece of what ClicData has to offer. But we also understand Power BI's got amazing visualization. undoubtedly. They've been in the market for a short amount of time, but they carry all the Microsoft experience with Excel and all the other tools that they had before, and it provides a great tool. You can connect Power BI to ClicData today using either web streams or our API, but we're going to actually build a Power BI plugin on their side that you can actually come and get the data from ClicData directly. And since we're looking at competitors on the visualization side, we've been thinking about Looker. This, at this point in time, will depend on the success we have with Power BI. We don't like to develop things that are not going to be used. So we're going to see how Power BI is used and see if Looker is potentially the next player there. And fine, for those that are using WordPress for your websites, a small plugin just to embed dashboards and charts and widgets in a much easier way into your websites or portals. Wow, that is it, and 5 minutes to spare. Just a reminder, we just had a release, 2024-05, and now there's one last this year, 06, which is scheduled for December 3rd. This is a short sprint cycle here. You can check all the release dates at ClicData.com platform status. I urge you to do so and plan accordingly. Unfortunately, this one we actually had to push it back. QA was not optimal, so Anna decided to pull the plug and push it out, and she did right. We have 6 releases planned for 2025, roughly 2 months apart, as always, and we're planning to deliver all this functionality during those 6 releases. Also, I'd like to remind you all that you can look at some of the webinars that we put together to look at some of these features that we're talking about. You can even see previous roadmap and see, are we actually doing what we said we were going to do? You can actually compare the before and after. And please feel free to get in touch with us. If you have any questions, I'm going to end the screen sharing right here. And with that, we're open to questions. Are we open to questions?
We are.
Excellent. I'm just going to put your email back.
Right. Well, if no questions come up now, of course, you can send them to that email address. That's fine too. So feel free to do it.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed it. And with that, farewell until the next release webinar.
Thank you very much. Bye.